So as you already know, the brain has various gyri and sulci, peaks and valleys. These sections, which are the peaks of the brain, are known as gyri. Let me use a green for that. And the valleys are known as sulci. Let's put that in red. Sulcus. And in fact, the sulci help separate different parts of the brain, which we will talk about right now. This structure here, you see this line that separates the frontal lobe from the parietal lobe, is known as the central sulcus. Let's put that in blue. Central sulcus. And it separates the frontal lobe from the parietal. Then we also have another sulcus, which is right over here. Let's put that in yellow. And this is known, this one right here, as the lateral sulcus. And this one separates the frontal and the parietal lobe from the temporal lobe. You can see the structure. And this is important because deep within it, you actually find another lobe of the cerebral cortex. And that's called the insular cortex. So deep within the lateral sulcus, you find another structure called the insular cortex. And the insular cortex is important for taste. It houses the gustatory cortex. So everything that comes from the tongue goes there to that cortex. It's found deep within this lateral sulcus. Another thing I wanted to mention is if you look at this central sulcus, just in front of it, so if we, for example, put this in blue, just in front of it, right here, you find a special gray matter that's called the primary motor cortex. This is found in the frontal lobe, just in front of the central sulcus. So it's actually known as precentral gyri. And just behind it, so if we put this in yellow, you find the post-central gyri. So this was the precentral, which houses the primary motor cortex, and then you have the post-central, which is part of the parietal lobe that has the primary somatosensory cortex. So this here receives or sends outgoing motor signals, whereas this here receives sensory input. So on each side of the central sulcus, you have very important structures, whether it's the precentral gyri or the post-central gyri. And lastly, I wanted to mention a very important fissure between the two hemispheres. There's another deep groove or deep sulci. And anytime we have a deep sulci, we call it a fissure. This here is the deep longitudinal fissure, also sometimes known as the median longitudinal fissure, as it separates the two hemispheres of the brain.